Today, we're diving into the blueprint for the world's largest democracy, the Constitution of India. This one single document is the ultimate rulebook for a nation of incredible complexity, and we're going to break down just how it works.
And just to give you a sense of that scale, take a look at this number, over 900 million. That's how many people could vote in India's 2019 general election. It's a mind-boggling figure, and it really highlights the massive challenge of governing a country like this. So that brings us to the big question, right? With so much diversity, we're talking different languages, religions, cultures, how can one single rulebook possibly hold everything together? Well, the answer lies in the really clever design of its core principles.
Let's think of the Constitution as a master plan, a blueprint that was specifically drawn up to manage all this diversity while still building a single, unified nation.
You know, this document is so much more than just a list of laws. It's really a mission statement. Right there in its preamble, it lays it all out. It declares India to be a sovereign, socialist, secular, and democratic republic. Those 4 words, they set the stage for absolutely everything else.
So how is that vision actually built? Well, you can think of it as resting on 3 key pillars. And the very first pillar is the structure of the government itself, a federal system which is all about sharing power.
So what is federalism? In simple terms, it just means you've got 2 levels of government working at the same time. You have the national or union government in New Delhi, and then you have individual state governments, each one looking after its own regional issues.
And this table here, it breaks down that power sharing really clearly. The union list gives the central government control over big, national issues, things like defense and foreign policy. The state list covers more local stuff, like the police and agriculture. And then there's this interesting third category, the concurrent list, for things they share responsibility for, like education.
But here's the thing. It's not a perfectly balanced 50-50 split. The system is often called quasi-federal, and this was a totally deliberate choice. You have to remember, the framers of the Constitution had just lived through the trauma of partition, and they wanted to prevent the country from ever breaking apart again. So the central government was given a bit more power to act as a kind of glue, ensuring national unity. In a crisis, the union's authority can actually override the states to hold the country together.
Okay, so you've divided power between the union and the states. But then how do you stop any one part of the government from becoming too dominant? Well, that brings us to our second pillar, keeping power in check. At the absolute heart of this pillar is the rule of law. This is a critical concept. It means that the law is supreme. It's king. It applies to everyone, from an ordinary citizen all the way up to the highest government official. The Constitution makes it crystal clear nobody is above the law.
And to make sure the rule of law actually works, power inside the government itself is split into 3 separate branches. You've got the legislature, that's the parliament, and their job is to make the laws. Then there's the executive, led by the prime minister and president, who put those laws into action. And finally, you have the judiciary, which is the court system, and they interpret the laws.
And this is where it gets really clever. This is how they prevent any one branch from just going wild with power. The courts, for example, can use something called judicial review to strike down a law if they think it violates the Constitution. The legislature can hold the executive accountable, they can even impeach officials. And while the executive appoints the judges, every single one of its actions can be challenged in those very same courts. It's this constant, delicate dance of checks and balances.
All right, our third and final pillar is maybe the most unique and honestly the most challenging one: how to create a sense of national unity without forcing everybody to be exactly the same. This is all about embracing diversity.
The key principle here is secularism. But, and this is really important, it's a version that's uniquely Indian. What it means is that the state doesn't have an official religion. It has to treat every single faith with equal respect and can never discriminate against a citizen because of what they believe.
And this slide really shows you just how different it is from the Western model. Instead of a strict wall of separation, the Indian approach is called principled distance. The state stays neutral, but it can step in if a religious practice violates a citizen's fundamental rights. For example, if a custom was denying women their constitutional right to equality, the state could intervene to fix that. It's this fascinating balance between religious freedom and social justice. So we've seen how the Constitution sets up the state and balances all this power. But this whole huge system is designed for one reason: to serve the people. And that brings us to the final, absolutely crucial piece of this grand design: the role of the citizen, which is a really neat balance of rights and duties. Think of it like a powerful two-way street.
On one side, the Constitution gives every citizen fundamental rights, things like equality and free speech, and these act as a shield, protecting them from the power of the state. But on the other side, it also lays out fundamental duties, like promoting harmony and protecting public property, reminding citizens that they have an active part to play in building the nation.
So, when you put it all together, from its federal structure to its checks and balances and its unique brand of secularism, the Indian Constitution is a truly remarkable document, designed for a remarkable nation. It really is a living foundation. And that leaves us with a final thought. As India continues to change and evolve, what is the best way for all of us to protect the values at its very core?